Look at this beauty. So it is a glass top. That's real glass, folks. Green. It's the yummy green. It is not broken. There's nothing wrong with this piece. It's aged. It's got beautiful patina. It opens, it closes. I have brought it home so many times in the thought, like, I'll just put it back in my booth. And so what I'm going to do to this is I'm going to stencil out some old wording, because you're really going to sit it this way. You're not going to sit it that way. So I think just stenciling out cake and bread, putting it on top of the green, because the green is yummy and it's got the right amount of patina. I really just think that would help it sell. So if you have it up on a top shelf, or if you have it and you're using it, you can see some wording. I'm usually not one to do a lot of wording, but I think most of my projects today are getting some wording, but they're the old timey wording. So I Cricut it out, and now I'm going to make a stencil for this. Okay, so cursive, which is little lines, sometimes a little bit on the difficult side to read, or even to cut out sometimes. But the key is remembering to weld the two pieces together, all the letters together, when you are before you cut them out. Sometimes we just need to help things along a little bit. Okay, got my transfer tape. I like the transfer tape with the grid on it. I shouldn't have to worry about the paint not sticking to this, because I'm actually going to do a spray paint, y'all. So I've just got some rubbing alcohol just to clean it off, get any residue that might be on there off. Okay. Much bigger than I probably should have made it a little bit on the smaller side. Too big, too small. Maybe too big. It'll be fine. Go big or go home, right? I was going to spray paint it, I think, really to get that a little bit. I know it's a little big. I don't know. I wanted it to be big. Yes, we're going to spray paint it, but you know how spray paint is. You have to cover everything else up because it's a mist and it will travel. So I'm going to get some of my paper and wrap my paper on this. I'm all taped everywhere, because that's just how, it's like water. It will find it'll find its markings. So I'm just going to use Rust-Oleum's High Performance Enamel in the flat black. Yes, it is better to hit it from all angles, because even that fine mist sometimes does not get in certain places. Now we just need to let it dry. Okay, we are dry, so let's get it off before the vinyl doesn't want to come off. So I can't have this looking all new when this looks old. So I'm just taking some 40, meaning 0000, steel wool, just very lightly going over it. See if we can get it to distress just a little bit. Because unfortunately, you still, even though I use a spray paint, you still kind of feel the raised letters. Back then, it would have been just completely flat and with the, so. But just seeing if I'm doing something that somebody will be more interested in. Just to clean it off, get a little sealant in the paint because that paint doesn't have anything to seal it, and I'm just going to use some weather. I'm just going to use some Fusion's clear wax. And it's really just going to stick to the paint, not necessarily, it's not going to stick to the metal. Now I have this one. This one is gorgeous. But there again, this part that's on there is so faded, nobody's really seen it. I didn't even try to put this one in my booth. Because I think I just need to, unfortunately, go through and repaint it. Give it that wow factor, I guess, especially because of the top. And if it had the cake and bread on there, it yeah, it would be better. So it's got like a number 3 and some folk art stenciling. So I'm going to take a sander a little bit, see what we can sand off. It's crazy. I had no, I did not know that much would come off that easily. So I just have some rubbing alcohol. I didn't need to get it all off. I just wanted to scuff sand it a little bit. Yeah, I'm just taking it. Even though I'm not painting the inside, I thought I would give it a good cleaning. I mean, I cleaned it in the sink with soap and water, but. And it's funny, I can see some drip marks, and maybe somebody else painted this along the line. Look at the drips on the inside. Whoop. I'm not going to deal with those too much because I don't want to ruin the interior. But I am going to take a piece of tape. There's vent holes. We want to make sure that we get those taped off. Definitely I'm going to move back and forth kind of metal, and where the handles are, because they go all the way through. I do think part of what we do, not only as crafters, but people who have booth rentals or buy secondhand finds, is we're saving them from the landfill, trying to get them to look the best that we think they can. Taste is personal always. There's always going to be somebody who's not going to like something. But yeah, just get it back out there to be loved again, and hopefully it can live on, because they just don't make things the same anymore. So it's not necessarily getting a new color, as it is going to stay black. It's just going to get a new paint job. Hopefully still looking a little bit on the old side. So I'm going to still use that Rust-Oleum's flat black. dry now. I'm going to seal it in before trying to do any vinyl stencil on here. I wanted to do cardstock, but I was having a hard time cutting it out. Either way, it's all good, and we're going to make it work. You know, the hardest part is getting your idea onto your item. So weather defense to seal everything in, because the spray enamel paint is just a paint. There's no top coat to seal it in or anything like that. So here is my final result. Detach, ungroup. So when it came to this image here, it was straight like what this was, but you go into your edit feature and it gives you an option to, hold on, I've already printed this one, so I will show you here. So it gives you an option to go in and edit, and you can do some warp features. So see how it changes which way that it goes. Or, you know, if you don't want any. And then, you know, you size it here, size it there. So each one of these I did just a little bit. These are actually squares, rectangles that I stretched out, and I warped this too. So this one's warped. I used the cake is not warped, but everything else I used the warp feature on. So I cut my vinyl out because I it's like a lot of the vinyl off, because I think paintier's tape would be more forgiving than vinyl. Maybe, maybe. Just gonna cut the vinyl off too, so there's not so much that is going to be sticking. Worst comes to worst, I could just paint it all over, but I've got a plan. I think that's close. Two. We're going for it. I don't know if that just stretched or what it did. Sometimes it does. That's how vinyl is. And now I'm going to tape off because I'm going to spray this also. Y'all probably think she is just gone crazy. Probably. Now I'm not going to do white. I'm actually going to do gold. Oh, so we'll see how this goes. So in my mind, the less time I let it sit on here, the less chances it has to rip off the paint, which I'm sure I'm going to get some paint loss. And some extra. See, I told you, wherever it says, no, you didn't get me tight enough, that's okay. That is okay. Let's see what we get, guys. Luckily, the metallic paint dries pretty fast. Hard to use one of these. It looks like I must have got over my, it's okay. I decapitated my E. I must have put tape over it, but it is what it's going to be now. And just like the green bread box, I will be distressing the letters. So the little bit of extra that I got here and there, I'm not gonna stress over it. Okay, I'm gonna take the steel wool, run it over until we got some smoothness going on. See, it's probably gonna take all those little spots off where it went underneath. It'll be okay. This is 220 that's been used. So I'm just gonna go over my edges. We don't want a clean paint job. That wouldn't match the rest of the box and the inside. Surprisingly, I thought that the tape and the vinyl were going to take off more paint than it actually did. Actually, that paint was on there more than I wanted it to be. It just like, yeah, no, I'm not going to come off. So we're just going to, it's just going to be what it's going to be. You can only force it off so much, right? I'm antiquing. I'm going to take some Fusion's antiquing wax. And I'm just going to go over, because of course where I sanded it, the top coat then comes off. And then I didn't want it to be shiny, like sometimes weather depends, it looks shiny. I just want to seal and protect it. And then the antiquing wax will give it that, like, that age. I love the massive of this. It actually says paper towels on it. But kind of the handle is crooked. Got these little feeties on it. So I'm actually going to, and it's missing its dowel that would have held that. So I'm actually going to paint the top of this, take this handle off to make it more look like the general store, even though I didn't realize when I bought it that it said paper towels. Oh my goodness. But anyway, I thought, oh, they had that listed wrong. It's a general store roller. But no, it does say paper towels. But I do have a replacement dowel. I think that will fit. So we'll get that, but I think this would be fun when I'm gonna take that off. I know it's easier to handle, but I don't like it. I don't like it on there. My personal opinion. See, it was very crooked, very. They're not very big holes, so I'm just going to use some air dry clay to fill them in. Give it a sanding so we can take off that little mark that's there. I'm thinking it might be easier to paint if I take it off. Let's see how easily these come off. Oh, not bad. Because I want to do both sides. So now because I filled those in with some air dry, I'm just going to give it a coat of shellac spray. I know it's just a small piece of wood, but I'm going to mix up some pantry door. Just a simple green, just a simple. If it cracks, so be it. I didn't shellac the underneath side. Much easier to paint off there than it would be to paint on. I'm going to try to dry this with the heat gun so I'm able to do the other side. And it looks like even without shellac, it wants to crack. That's okay. Now I can paint the other side. I felt like I needed to lift it up on something. I think this is a good time while this is apart to try to measure how, I think it's 11 and a half, how much dowel I need to cut. Beautiful. So let's sand it a little bit. Then I think a little bit of aging wax. That'll really get into the crackles. And then seal the paint in and give it a little bit more age. Ooh. So smaller crackles where the shellac was, big crackles where there was no shellac. I don't know. You be the judge. I always say it's unpredictable. As soon as you think you got something figured out, it does something different. Okay, let's get back together. It's back together. Does my dowel fit? It does, yes. Okay, I have two cutting boards, one really thick, one thin, and I'm not necessarily doing anything with the top, as I'm going to paint the side and do a little bit of wording. I'm hoping to do a little wording or not. If that one doesn't work, it might just get painted, but I know I can do some wording on here. A while ago, I did these and I did the word bread, and they sold. There wasn't any problem there selling them, so that was nice. Just give it a little bit of character other than just being a straight wood. So I am going to take the sander though and sand it a little bit so my paint sticks. To get lettering to show up, I'm just going to use DIY's White Swan, and then just to paint it, makeup sponge from the Dollar Tree store. Other than dusting it off, I didn't do too awful much. We're not looking for perfect, we're just looking to get paint on. Not too much paint. Got the big guy now. This is nice and chunky. It's not square, so it's just rounded. I just need enough on the side to be able to show some wording. I'm just going to sand by hand. That way I can kind of control where I'm sanding. I need to seal my chalk paint in before doing any of the stenciling on it. So I'm going in with Fusions. This is a matte clear coat. Just with the makeup sponge, I think is fine. Try to keep it on the paint, but if not, then I mean, I could sand it. Need to seal the milk paint in though. Oh, actually, I'm not using milk paint. I need to seal my DIY paint in. So IOD has these little bitty stamps, apothecary labels, and there's really little ones and there's a little bit, but I think these ones are going to fit perfectly for the bread. So I'm going to get all my letters out. Remembering how to spell bread. Isn't that funny when you go, you're like, hold on, how do I spell it? I think I'm just going to use, I had this earlier. Usually I get a piece of packing tape out, but I think I'm going to go ahead and use this. Because it'll stick, right? And then I can just follow the grid since I just used it and it's right here. Remember to line up your letters with the bottom of the letter, not the bottom of the necessarily the cut. Like this part, try to match it up with the letter. Lean it against something to keep it upright. And since there's a little knot here, I want that to be my bottom part and this to be my top. And so see, it just goes right onto there, but I just need to see where my middle is. Of course, 10 and a half, and almost a half. Okay. Why can't anybody think the even numbers? So 11 is 5 and a half. So almost 5 and a half should be right there. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you know, I'm trying here. And then I'm just going to use the IOD's black ink. Center my E with the dot. I like that that's sticky because then that can stick. And then I'll just press down. And then I have bread. And then an extra little thingy. I sealed it, so maybe 2 seconds. The 2-second rule there was longer than 2 seconds for me to find a wet Q-tip. But yeah, that way I have something to. So I need to wait for that to dry, and then we'll do the other side. Now going with the world's smallest. I don't even think I've ever used these before. So here we go again. Remembering how to spell bread. You definitely don't want to have a YouTube channel and do a craft and do something, especially spell something wrong. Everybody will let you know. A good portion anyway. Granted, the word that I spelled wrong was equestrian, which is a huge word. Oh, Okay, we're gonna do this one now. So see, just oh, hey, get back on there, D. Thought that was gonna be sticky enough. Okay, let's measure. See, we're almost 10. So let's try right about there. See if we're almost 5. Almost 5. I think that's pretty good. Don't want that D falling off this time. That's some really small letters to have to try to ink. I'm going to be using IOD's Marmalade stamp, probably one of my oldest sets, the sets I've had the longest. And it is, I put it on something and it usually always sells. So I have these old jars that they don't sell as is. I have 3 of them. And I sell them as reproductions, y'all. I'm not trying to, the wool over somebody's eyes, but these are marmalade, like the old timey. And if you ever try to get a hold of a marmalade original, that's not, that's from England, London, England. It's really impossible to get. So they're really hard to find here. And if you go online looking for them, you can sometimes get a deal, sometimes pay a whole bunch of money. There's a Whatnot seller that she has some beautiful England jars, crockery jars. Oh, I just drool every time I'm in her show and just watch for entertainment. So I'm just going to match up which stamp I think fits the jar. Do these with IOD ink, but I kind of want to try to see if I can get it to be a little bit darker and try it with paint. It's not going to dry automatically, so it'll be fine. You can just wipe it off if you make a mistake. My image off if it's not something I like. So I try to find the flattest, because of course there's, they were old, so there's imperfections. So I'm just going to rub it off with some rubbing alcohol. And then before doing anything else, I'm going to take some packing tape and I'm going to grab my stamp and I'm going to make little handles, leaving some of the tape so the tape can stick to the jar so I can press it down. But I'll need to do it on the whole thing. I didn't quite make those long enough. That's okay. We only need a little to stick. So there we are. So I have that. Fusion's coal black, and I don't have a bigger paper plate. I do in the house, but not in here. So I'm just going to put some on here. Then I'm going to take a brayer to ink up my stamp. If it doesn't work, I can take it off. Usually, like I said, I usually do it with the IOD ink pads, but sometimes I don't know if I feel like it's dark enough. So now I'm going to take it, move this back out, try to eyeball. If you ever bought one of these or have one of these in your possession, you know they are perfectly imperfect. So I'm going to put that side down. That's where this tape comes in handy, because now I'm taping it to the jar. And now, I don't know, like, my worry is that the paint is going to spread and make a hot mess, which it looks like it might have, but we'll see what happens when I take it off. But that way I can like push all of it down Oh yeah, it's a little messy. That's okay. There's probably enough ink on there to go in twice. Now see, if I would have sprayed that with a clear coat first, I couldn't do this. To take a little bit of that off. It's too much. It's too much. So trial and error, keep trying to see how much paint it's going to take. Nice thing about alcohol is it dries fast. So we're going to go back down. The tape is still sticky. I like the Cricut scraping tool. That way I'm putting even pressure on the item. Oh, that's a little better. That's a little better. Trying to decide if one more time's a charm. One more time. I think one more time's a charm. Okay, don't push it so hard. That way, see, it's very forgiving, y'all. It's very forgiving. Oops. It started touching before I was ready for it to touch. Let me show you all the things that can happen and that you don't need to be worried about it. Okay, now we'll just pull that over, nice and taut. And then maybe I won't use my Cricut tool. Maybe that's getting too much paint. Just my hands. That way when I go to do the other two, I'll have it down to a science. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. That's better. It's not all raised. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it is darker than what the ink would do. Making my little packages. Oh, yuck! That one does not look good. I will say the grooves make it a little bit hard. So I have my IOD black ink pad. Let's see if that turns out better. You can wipe it off just the same. I think it might just be that the paint is wet and it just squishes too much. Oh, I almost was going upside down. Oh, yep, maybe the regular way is just the way to do it. Nice thing about it is you go see it's not as dark as what a paint will do, but the paint, you know, that took me like 3 times to get it to be okay. Right? I took the paint off. I didn't like the paint. It was raised. You could feel it. So now I'm just going to do a light coat of weather defense to make sure that stamping stays on there. I recently did over a yellow painted shoe fly screen. This is a newer one, but I want to make it look older than it is. And I absolutely love the way the other one turned out. So I'm going to, luckily I don't have to sand this one other than giving it a paint job and some decrepit dust to make it look older. And then I have this base that is definitely new, but I want to make it look like an old board. So I'm going to take the little screws out the little feet, and we're going to do some sanding before doing that piece. You know, these come with those cheese cloches. The glass cloches, and everybody seems to like the cloches. They just don't want the bottoms. So let's make the bottom into something desirable that somebody wants the bottom. CA glue that I like to use to hold things together also has colors like black and brown. So this one is brown. And instead of putting, because I want to keep this natural, mostly natural wood, I'm going to paint the sides. I'm going to fill in these little holes with this brown where I just removed those nails, or screws, where I just removed those screws. I'm going to start off with painting the inside of this just with the Rust-Oleum flat black. Now this should be dry, and we can go ahead and start sanding. I would like to say that I can get that little edge with the power sander, but I can't, so I have to go in and hand sand. So to paint the edges, I'm not painting the back, like the bottom, and really hard to get all that paint, so I'm going to paint right up to there and on that edge, and I'm doing DIYs. Eden. Oh, look at that green. Okay, now I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to spray it black. And right from the get-go, I'm going to do DIYs decrepit dust, a mixture of the dark and with the warm. Get a big old fan brush. It always looks like a lot, but don't stress. Because once you spray it and stuff like that, it kind of changes. Not kind of, it does. And then right on top of it will be the weather defense. See how it changes it already? Okay, my paint's dry, so I'm just going to go in and sand it. I'm going to hand sand it, but with some 220. I kind of like it the color that it is. Kind of reminds me of the one I have in my house. I know I'm going to darken it once I start to wax it. I think I'm just going to do clear. It's really decor only, but you can still use it if need be. That's just going to seal the board in. And it's just 3 little dots on the back.